RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com. Brought to you by Species Nutrition. Right now on SpeciesNutrition.com, Testalize Natural Test Booster is back in stock right now at SpeciesNutrition.com. 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions on diet, training, supplementations, IFBB pros, competitions, anything and everything on the table is all on the table as we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave is the post-Olympia tour starts to sort of get into full gear here. We start to see, some of those stories emerge from after the Olympia. A couple of years ago, it was William Bonac and his run through the post-Olympia tour. Big Ramy's been the headliner here thus far as we close out the post-Olympia tour.
Well, Big Ramy, we've said it before, is the most exciting guy in bodybuilding. I mean, because he's got the potential to be Mr. Olympia, for 10 years in a row if he continues to compete. So, of course, we want to see Big Ramy, do great things. And when Big Ramy wins a show like the Arnold Europe, it's exciting, I don't think he's going to be doing any of the other shows as far as the Prague Pro. I don't see him on the list. So I'm assuming he's shutting it down. Whether he does the Arnold or not this year, I don't know. He might just hold out till the Olympia and try to win the Olympia next year. But the bottom line is that Ramy's exciting. When he brings the goods 100%, and he's getting close, he's going to be the biggest star in all bodybuilding. And that's all we'll talk about is Ramy. I mean, we do that now, but Phil won't even be, we'll be talking about Phil as an afterthought, as a great champion whose time came and went. But for now, Phil is still getting the job done, and he's winning these shows. So, will Ramy be at his best next year? I guess we'll have to wait a whole year and find out at this point.
Let's go right to the questions. We first go to Mindon Making It. Do you feel that supplementing with arginine is still beneficial today?
It's still a benefit for what?
Beneficial today.
Look, we all know arginine, citrulline, they're good nitric oxide releasers. When you take them in high amounts, your body releases nitric oxide, you get a better pump in the gym. Whether that increased blood flow or pump is actually doing anything to build more muscle remains to be seen. I don't see the research to show that. I do show that, you're getting better blood flow, you get a better pump, maybe your blood pressure is better, I don't know. To me, it's a good supplement. It's not a necessity. It's one of these luxury item supplements, I call it. To me, when I was competing, I would sit down and figure out what ingredients I needed in my supplement plan that is going to help me, number one, maximize muscle gains and recovery and increase fat burning when I was dieting for a show. If the supplement didn't do that, I didn't waste my money on it because I had so many other things to buy, including food and drugs at the time, that I had to really, budget myself. So I think a lot of guys go to the store and they buy these, pre-workouts, which are great, if you can afford them, but then they don't buy the essential vitamins and minerals and essential fats and fiber and protein powders, and they skimp on the stuff that they should be spending the money on because they're buying stuff because they feel like they got a pump in the gym. So, is it a relevant supplement? Yeah, but is it going to really do anything, other than make you feel like you have a better pump in the gym? Probably not. So you have to always assess what are you spending your money on and figuring what your budget is. If you have an unlimited budget, then you can buy everything,
Let's go to G. Bibarbu. Why do I feel like throwing up during intense heavy lifting? How can I avoid it?
What happens when you lift really heavy and especially when you're squatting heavy weights or doing deadlifting heavy weights or bent rowing, you're traumatizing your nervous system essentially because your nervous system has to put out a tremendous effort to make those muscles maximally contract. And it almost feels like you're shell-shocked after some of these workouts. I remember I would go home, not necessarily throw up in the gym, but I would go home, I'd be queasy, I really wouldn't want to eat. I would usually gulp down a post-workout shake, and I would actually lay down and try to take a nap. And sometimes after a leg workout, I was so jittery, my nervous system was so traumatized, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't relax. So that's normal. That's why you don't do 3 leg workouts a week. That's why you shouldn't do 2 leg workouts a week because it's hard enough to recover from 1 leg workout that's hardcore and heavy. And I think that's a mistake people make. They tax their nervous system too much Then they overtax it, and then what happens is their body run out of the neurotransmitters that enable these nerves to communicate with each other, and they feel run down, they have a lack of desire to go to the gym, and they get all these symptoms, possibly of clinical depression, and it all has to do with an exhaustion of neurotransmitters. Your nervous system is not an unlimited system. It needs to recover. The best way to help your nervous system recover is sleep and rest. That means that you cannot train 7 days a week in the gym. It means that you can't train multiple body parts, the same body part per week. Give an all-out effort on the day you train it, and make sure you get at least 2 days a week rest from the weights. Cardio can be done on a daily basis because it's not as intense. But from the weights, you should definitely take 2 days off every week.
Alexander Den Store is donating blood because of too many red blood cells going to affect your training in a bad way.
Obviously lowering hemoglobin hematocrit red blood cell count is going to lower your oxygen carrying capacity. Now, as bodybuilders, we're really not endurance athletes, so that shouldn't really affect us too much. What I always tell people is, look, when your blood work comes back, if you have high red blood cells, hemoglobin hematocrit, which is pretty consistent with steroid use, okay, assess how high it is. If it's only a little high, if it's only a couple points, if it's like 7, if 15 is normal on the hematocrit and you're at 17, that's not that high to me. I wouldn't be giving blood. If you're at 20 or 21, that's crazy high, So at that point, you might want to donate a pint of blood to lower that a little, because you'll still be high after you donate the blood. You're just not going to be excessively high. I don't think anyone who's dieting for competition should be donating blood. After the show, do it if you want to. When you're dieting for show, you want to have everything that's in you. All that extra red blood cells are going to give you better pumps in the gym. It's going to give you better endurance in the gym. Afterwards, that's when I would assess the damage. Assess the issue. If you are super, super high, that's another story. I think people who give blood on a regular basis, it sometimes causes their body to produce additional red blood cells at a much faster rate too. So don't go donating blood in knee-jerk response. If you're really high, do it. If you're not, I would cool out and just not worry about it.
Midi Tayebi, how much testosterone do you recommend in a prep cycle? Are you a fan of high test or low test in a prep?
I always am a fan of moderately high testosterone levels. So anywhere from 250 to 350 milligrams every other day. And that's of long-acting esters like cypionate or nanthate or even sustanon. I just think it works better. I believe testosterone should be the main base of all cycles if you're at an advanced level. If you're not at an advanced level, it's a different story. At an advanced level, testosterone should be the base of your bulking cycles. It should be the base of your cutting cycles.
Reza Mohammed-Zada, when I start my training with a cable movement, I never get a sore muscle the next day, but when I start with multi-joint movements, my muscle gets sore the day after. What's the reason behind that? I have a problem with my joints. I start with cable.
I don't know. Sometimes when people start, with a multi, where we call it a compound movement, what happens is they're able to lift more weights because they haven't done any other exercises first, and they usually lift heavier, and then they're sore. When people start with a warm-up or a pre-exhaustion type workout, like maybe a cable or something like that, what invariably happens is that you don't lift as heavy when you get to the main compound movement. So maybe you're not getting as sore because you're not breaking out as much muscle because you're not lifting as heavy. If you are lifting as heavy and you're not getting as sore when you do like a warm-up or a pre-exhaust type workout, maybe it's because the muscles just need to be stretched out better, and you're damaging some connective tissue because you're not stretched adequately. Because you're going right into a compound movement. So there's a multitude of different answers to that question. I don't know how you lift, how much weight you're lifting. I'm kind of just going on the pattern that you have laid out for me. So it could be any one of the scenarios I laid out.
And Fusion, after a long break off training, is it better to get back into it and go hard right away or ease into it?
Well, logic would tell you that you want to ease into it. If you haven't been training for quite a while, you don't want to just start lifting the heaviest weights you can, or you're going to be crippled the next day. Start lighter, get a nice pump, feel that joint moving, get the full range of motion in, and you'll respond from lighter weights because your body will respond to anything you're doing. I haven't trained for 9 weeks. I went back to the gym this week. I'm doing very light movements. I can't even train my replaced shoulder yet, but I'm doing like basic, very, very light, stretching-ish, contracting type movements to really feel the muscles. And I'm telling you, I feel it. I feel a difference. And I'm lifting super light. I'm not lifting heavy weights by any means. But I feel it, and I think that that's because I haven't been in the gym for so long. Now, as I continue to go, I'll be able to start increasing little by little and getting back into a routine that I'm comfortable with.
Mr. Stenwell, thoughts on Nathan Diash's physique compared to Dennis Wolf? It appears that they have a similar frame.
Yeah, I think Nathan's got a better back probably, although he's got the high lats too, like Dennis did. I think that Dennis at his peak was better than Nathan is right now, but I think Nathan has unlimited potential. He's still growing, he's still improving. I think that he'll be a great bodybuilder in the future. He's a great bodybuilder now, but I'm saying he'll be an even better bodybuilder in the future. I don't think Nathan has reached the level of where Wolf was at his best. Now Wolf's coming back. We don't know how he'll look. It'll be interesting to see how those two match up. Obviously, Dennis being a little older than Nathan at this point in his career. But yeah, they do have similarities, but I think Nathan's better in terms of potential. I think Wolf is better in terms of development now, muscle maturity. So I'm interested. I've been with Nathan since the beginning. I've been friends with him. I've advised him. It's cool to see him evolving and growing and changing. And I think, like I said, I think we're going to see an Arnold Classic champion in Nathan. Whether he wins the Olympia or not is another story, but I think he'll definitely win a couple of Arnolds before it's all over.
El Shanko, how much salt and water do you recommend for an athlete with about 255 pounds during peak week? Then he goes on to say that he could possibly email you for a protocol. Greetings from Germany.
I do a lot of last week contest preps with people where they pay, it's $100 I charge, and starting at 10 days out, I'll assess your pictures, your diet, your supplements, your drug cycles, and then I'll basically, starting at 7 days out, we go every single day with updates. I make changes, and I peak you perfectly for the show. I mean, that's the easiest thing I can do, or the best thing I can help you with. I mean, I'm not going to change your conditioning very much in 1 week, although I've done some pretty, we've done some big turnarounds with people prior to that. Now the question, what was the original question?
The original question was how much salt and water do you recommend?
Oh, water and salt, right. So
during peak week at 255 pounds.
Most people who know me, I don't cut water, I don't restrict water, I don't increase water, and I don't restrict salt, and I don't increase salt the last week. I don't change anything. Whatever you've been doing the whole diet, that's what we stay at. And usually during the diet of the people I work with, I keep sodium as high as they want. I keep water. If you want to drink a lot, you drink a lot. If you don't want to drink a lot, you don't drink a lot. No forced drinking. The only thing I really change is the last day. That's when I take away sodium and I'll cut water as the day goes along into the night. By nighttime, when I stop water at around 8:30 for a Saturday morning prejudging, I'm usually increasing sodium back into the diet once I stop the water drinking. So it's really not even a whole day of sodium and water restriction. It's kind of like as one fades in, the other fades out. So I feel that the less you do that last week, the better the person looks.
Daddy Fit PhD, you talked about sort of your own regimen getting back into lifting. Well, Daddy Fit PhD wants to know your current diet and exercise regimen and how it will change as your shoulder is rehabbed.
Yeah, the new shoulder is doing well. I'm still haven't been clear to weight train with it yet, so I'm not, like I said, I'm getting back. I'm training this arm, and I'm training my legs again a little bit, but I've been out of the gym. This is the longest I've ever been out of the gym doing nothing, 9 weeks. And so I'm looking forward to getting back into that. As far as how my diet is, you'd be horrified. I'll tell you what I ate yesterday. Yesterday I had my usual lunch. I had no breakfast, basically. I had lunch. I do like a cup of brown rice, a cup of mixed vegetables. I do a packet of Bumblebee wild-caught salmon. I do a tablespoon of Bubby sauerkraut, which has probiotics in there. I break up some fresh broccoli, uncooked. I put some kale leaves over it. I put macadamia nut oil all over the top of that whole thing, and I use Pete Cicconi's spices that he sells, and I spice it all up with that, and I sit there, and that's my lunch. During the day, I might eat these little, I think I showed you these before. They're like little chicken snacks. It's like, they look like little graham crackers, but they're actually made of chicken breast protein. I might be selling them. I'm trying to work a deal. Dave Hawk sells them. They're great. I have a snack like that. I'll eat some cacao bars during the day, like a couple pieces of cacao bar during the day. And then for dinner, it could be anything. I'll go to Carrabba's. I'll have chicken and pasta. Last night we ordered a Domino's pizza with grilled chicken all over it and mixed vegetables all over it. And I made a salad for myself with that. So I'm basically eating like twice a day, but I'm foraging throughout the day, all little extra little snacks here and there. So my diet's horrendous basically, but I'm not really doing anything, so I don't really need to support it. And I don't really want to gain any weight. So that's it. The only thing I probably do once I start training regularly is put another meal in there. So I'll get like 3 meals and then with a couple snacks in there. But like I said, I'm not trying to add mass to my body. If I was, I would be eating at least 5 servings of, I'd be drinking 2 shakes and probably 3 meals a day. And I'd probably gain 25 pounds in 6 weeks. I know it. I know how my body responds. I don't know if I want to do that. I kind of like being around the 200-pound mark. I feel good. My blood pressure is good. And once again, I'm 49, I'm going to be 50 next year. I'm into health and just looking good, and I feel that I'm lean. I'd like to put back some of the muscle I lost, obviously, from my shoulder surgery. That's my goal at this point, rehabbing that.
Greg C, 25. Now, this is a question that we got months ago, but again, we have a new audience, obviously, so we'll go there again. How do the pros take their, let's just say, stuff with them when they travel to other states and countries?
Well, traveling, from state to state within the U.S. is easy because you just put the anabolics in your suitcase that you check in, not the one you take on the actual airplane with you, the one that you check under the airplane. That you put it in there. No one cares about that stuff. They're looking for weapons and bombs and stuff like that when they X-ray your stuff. If you're traveling internationally, you really shouldn't bring anything with you. You could probably bring pills in a little vitamin bottle, but you definitely don't want to be bringing injectable drugs into and out of countries, especially don't go to Australia. I remember Aaron Singerman and I went to Australia in 2012, and he had a prescription from some hormone replacement clinic at the time, and he brought his testosterone with him. Why? I don't know. Actually, him and PJ Braun brought this, and they strip searched all our bags and everything like that, and they took the stuff from him. And luckily, he didn't get in trouble. He did have a prescription, but they don't care because it wasn't an Australian prescription. And they took the stuff from him. Luckily, like I said, he didn't get in trouble. So don't bring any anabolics with you, injectable stuff overseas. It's not worth it. There's no way you're gonna be able to bring it back with you anyway. It's just, don't create a stress for yourself where you don't need it. Most people who are traveling for shows, they're not gonna be gone long periods of time. And if they are, you gotta find a connection in the countries you're going to.
Rafaeliano, Dave, your thoughts on DHB, aka 1-testosterone?
I have never used it personally, so I don't know how it works, on my body. So I can't give you a personal idea of how the results I might get from it. I've heard anecdotally from people that some people do like it. They have gotten decent results from it. Once again, if you're going to start using compounds like that, you might as well use real anabolic steroids, at least that predictably how they work and what their side effects are. I never understood. I know it's probably these things are easier to get because they're available online, but you know what? Like I said, if you're going to take that step, you might as well take the full step and use real anabolics.
Let's go to Gainsby _ the gram. Is it okay to stay on year-round 500 mg a week testosterone with an aromatase inhibitor of course?
I wouldn't stay on 500 milligrams a day, even though it's a low to moderate dosage of testosterone. I really believe that you should clean out at least once a year. Now, if you're on an older guy and you're on hormone replacement, if that means going down to your 100 milligrams or 200 milligrams per week dosage, that's fine. But 500 milligrams per week is not a physiological dosage. It's a pharmacological dosage. That's a drug dosage. That means you're going to get pharmacological effects from it, whether it be muscle hypertrophy effects from it or other side effects you're going to get. It's different than taking a physiological dose, which is a dose that would naturally mimic your natural levels. So there is a line that when you cross that line, all of a sudden there are different effects. That's why most people don't grow massive amounts of muscle from taking 100 milligrams per week, which is a hormone replacement dosage, whereas if they take 600 or 700 milligrams a week, they put on a lot of muscle. There's a difference. There's one's physiologic, one's pharmacologic.
If you had to pick one body part to train for the entirety of your life, what would it be and why?
I love training legs. Believe me, I wish my quad muscle wasn't so screwed up. I miss squatting. I just like it. Even if I don't go heavy, I just like the movement. I like the stretch I get from it. I like the way I feel in my legs. I like the way my legs look from it. To me, it's the ultimate perfect exercise.
What he wants to know if we could do an interview with Arash Rabar and Flex Lewis. Arash Rabar, we interviewed him prior to the Olympia. Flex Lewis is under contract with another media entity. We cannot talk to him. Devesh Kumre, when should I have carbs as a cheat meal on keto?
Once a week. I try to tell people to do it the same day of the week, if you can, maybe like a Saturday night, have a carb meal. I call it a cheat meal. Some people call it a refeed meal. Go out and eat something you like, but it doesn't mean to go out and eat, nonstop for like 5 hours. That's beyond the scope of what you should be doing. It means go to a restaurant, have a nice meal. And if you have a good metabolism, have a dessert, if that's what you desire, and you'll be fine. But one meal, not the whole day.
Aaron Chadwick, Semarelin or Real GH? My TRT doctor is pushing Semarelin.
Yeah, the TRT guys like the Semarelin because it's cheaper. They probably make more money on it, but it is a cheaper product to make and to buy. So most people find that more appealing. The GH from a pharmacy is way more expensive. The difference is that when you inject GH, you're actually getting growth hormone in your system. When you're injecting Semarelin, you're trying to stimulate growth hormone from your pituitary. So not everyone puts out GH at the same rate as the other guy. So some people may respond really well to Semarelin, other people not at all. So if you have to pick between one or the other and price doesn't matter and you can afford both, get the GH.
Kurt Williams, the best fat stripper around at this moment in time, or is it Clen? And if it is Clen, what dosage would you recommend for a first-time user?
Yeah, I'd say, I have said this before many times, clenbuterol is the most effective fat burner available, legal or non. I would start with 20 micrograms twice a day, and it's something where you can increase the dosage by 20 micrograms every 2 to 3 weeks is adequate. And I would never go above 20 micrograms 6 times a day. That's the max you want to take. Always space those dosages out in 20 microgram increments, because what happens is clenbuterol can drop your blood pressure a little bit. So if you start taking 40, 60 micrograms in one dose, what happens is your blood pressure drops so much that your heart rate increases to compensate for the lack of blood pressure or the low blood pressure. So we don't want that to happen. Plus, when you spread it out, you get a better fat burning effect from it as well. So always spread those individual dosages out.
JS Brown 923, I have a question regarding spot injections. Do you think spot shooting with an insulin pins an hour before you train helps smaller muscle groups like triceps, biceps, or rear delts grow better? I know the theory of the inflammation helps create a better mental connection, but is it possible the oil could help stretch the fascia?
If you're using an insulin pin to inject something, you're really not injecting that much oil. So because of that, you're not really stretching fascia. And we found that, we used to think that the actual stretching of the fascia actually helped the muscle grow better. And we found since then that that's not the case. So I don't think you're going to get a fascial stretching type of muscle growth there. Like I said, the only thing you probably will get, and you mentioned this, is more of a mind-muscle connection to the area because of the inflammatory response that's occurring there.
Dial Dempsey, your thoughts on having a cheat meal every day during the off-season?
I have a guy who's doing McDonald's every single day of the off season because his metabolism is so fast and I'm having eating so much food, he cannot handle, he just can't grow. And I found that I solved that problem in my situation when I was up and coming, and I did McDonald's every day for probably the last 5 to 6 years of my career. And I grew like a weed from it. I loved it. And it tastes delicious, of course, but I just felt it worked well for me. I had a fast metabolism and I got away with it. Now, for people who don't have a fast metabolism and who are going to get fat from it, that's probably not a good idea. So you have to assess whether you're going to do this based on what your metabolic rate is. If you don't have a good metabolism, don't try to eat McDonald's every day and then skimp on the other meals, because that's silly. But if you have such a fast metabolism that you just physically can't eat enough food, it's not a bad option.
Zach Pryor, if HGH is only affordable to utilize for a period of time, say 16 weeks out of the year, Would it be best to take growth during off-season cycle or during contest prep?
I like GH during contest prep because it does have a fat burning effect as well, and it really rounds off the muscles. You could always use IGF-1 long R3 off season. It's cheaper, it works well, and like I said, it doesn't have any insulin resistant effects. Whereas GH makes you a little insulin resistant, which is not necessarily a bad thing, pre-contest, but when you're trying to grow, that's not going to help you.
We'll take one more question. This one from Marlenka. One question about cutting phase. Does Masteron and Mythol Tren keep them full muscles if Test is taken out coming into the show?
I don't like to remove Test at all. I find that the muscles do flatten out. I think Test keeps you full. It prevents you from losing, muscle mass. I think it's a mistake to remove the testosterone. That's just the way I feel about it. I've always worked that way with my athletes and myself, and I've always got good results. One time I pulled Test out of my cycle, I think like 2 weeks out, and I just didn't like the way it looked. I felt I was flat.
So we're going to take one more from Ali_lifts. Dave, in regards to the comparison pick of Ramy from 2013, the New York Pro, compared to this Olympia, do you think he looks bigger back then because he spent longer time training with a longer off-season, or is it a dieting issue that caused him to quote-unquote shrink in 4 years?
I put the picture up. I took a picture from our website of the 2013 New York Pro victory, back double bicep, and I put it next to the back double bicep from the Olympia, and I asked people, what do they think? And most people felt, like I did, that he looked better in 2013. Now, he wasn't as, I don't think he was as big in 2013, but I think his proportion was better. His waist was smaller. He had a better taper. His glutes were really deeply etched. I just think it was a better look for him. Sometimes when you get bigger, you don't necessarily look better. Now, having said that, I think if he would have been in the condition for the Olympia that he was at for that New York Pro, he might have looked better at the Olympia. So I think that it has to do with conditioning. I've been saying this over and over. When Ramy brings the conditioning that we saw from Ronnie Coleman on stage, that we saw from Dorian Yates on stage, that we saw from Lee Haney on stage, that day will be the day he's crowned Mr. Olympia. And we have not seen it yet, and that's why he's not Mr. Olympia. You can love to hate the judges' decisions all you want. The bottom line is that Ramy has not brought the best yet. When he does to that Olympia stage, it'll be lights out for everyone else.
That is going to do it for this episode of Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Again, Testalize available once again at speciesnutrition.com. For Dave Palumbo and our producer Johnny Styles doing a great job as always, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.